This video talks about compound inequalities and how to solve them. A compound inequality, yep, as October will agree, is just shorthand for two inequalities being written down at the same time. So, what does that look like? Here's an example of a compound inequality. -1 is smaller than -3x plus 5, which is, in turn, smaller than 14. That's just two inequalities, right? This is one inequality. And it's also saying at the same time that we have this other inequality. So you can solve these by splitting it up and solving two inequalities, or you can solve it all at once. Instead of doing something to both sides of the inequality, we'll do it to all three sides of the inequality. I don't know why my quotation marks turned into three. Actually, I do know why, but anyway. So two ways of doing this. Maybe we'll do it both ways. Let's start with the basic way. -1 is smaller than -3x plus 5. And -3x plus 5 is smaller than 14. So we get the x's by itself, so we'll subtract 5. We'll get -6 has to be less than -3x. Divide both sides by -3. But if we multiply or divide by a negative number, that inequality has to reverse directions. So we'll get that 2 is bigger than x. And if 2 is bigger than x, then x is smaller than 2. Connect these with the word and, right? And. So now let's solve the second inequality. Subtract 5 from both sides and divide by -3. Because we divide by a negative number, the inequality reverses. We find the solution is when x is smaller than 2 and bigger than -3. So on the number line, if -3 is over here and 2 is over here, we have to be smaller than 2, open circle or parenthesis, and bigger than -3. And that's our answer. -3 up to +2. Or we could have done this all at once, right? -1 is less than -3x plus 5, which is less than 14. We could subtract 5 from all three sides of this inequality. And that gives us -6 is less than -3x, which is less than 9. And you can see, right, that we're really doing the exact same steps. And now divide everything by -3. Divide all three sides by -3. And when we do that, we get 2, we get x, we get -3, but the inequalities switch directions. The 2 has to be bigger than x, and x has to be bigger than -3. This won't always make sense, but it does make sense here. And again, we could rewrite this. -3 is smaller than x, and x is smaller than +2. We get the same answer. I think this left method is more straightforward, but the right method is shorter. So what does a solution mean for a compound inequality? Well, let's see. Solution of an equation is a value that makes the equation true. Solution to an inequality, a basic inequality, is a value that makes the inequality true. Solution of the compound inequality, you guessed it, a value that makes the whole compound inequality true, or both smaller inequalities true. So what's a number in this interval that should be a solution? I would choose 0. 0 is in this interval. 0 is a solution. There's infinitely many solutions in this interval. 0 should make this true. So, right, is x equals 0 a solution? Well, let's check. Is -1 smaller than 0 plus 5? Yep. Is 5 also smaller than 14? Yep. 0 is a solution. It makes the compound inequality true. -1 is smaller than 5. 5 is smaller than 14. Any number in this interval should make that Inequality true. Now it's your turn. Solve this inequality, and then answer is -2 a solution? Should be able to answer it 2 different ways, and they should be consistent. Pause the video, try it, and we'll go through the solution together. I'm going to solve this all at once. Let's subtract 6 from all 3 sides to get -2 is less than or equal to 2x, which is strictly less than 10. So the signs don't have to match up. One can be less than or equal to, and the other one can be less than. Now we divide everything by 2 to get -1 is less than or equal to x, which is strictly less than 5. So we should have everything that's at least -1 and up to, but not including, 5. You could also plot this on the number line. So -2 is not in this interval. -2 is not between -1 and 5. We should expect -2 to not be a solution. But let's check. Is 4 less than or equal to 2 times -2 plus 6? And is that strictly less than 16? If either one of these fails, not a solution. Just like system of equations, right? Had to satisfy both. So we'll write a question mark there. Is 4 less than or equal to this -4? -4 plus 6 is 2. Uh-oh. So 2 is less than 16. That's no problem. But 4 is not less than or equal to 2. 4 is bigger than 2. 4 is to the right of 2. It's not to the left. So -2, it's not in the interval, and it doesn't satisfy the equation. We're going to say no. It's not. The angry face doesn't have to be boxed. Let me know if you have questions.